Speculation is intensifying. What began as cautious hints in the Japanese press, buried in columns by little-known economists, soon evolved into regional analytical bulletins citing anonymous sources within Tokyo's diplomatic circles. Now, major media outlets, from Nikkei to the South China Morning Post, are openly reporting that Japan is seriously weighing the possibility of joining BRICS. Not long ago, such a move would have seemed like pure fantasy. But today, with the Financial Times and The Economist citing sources inside Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs about potential negotiations, this is no longer just speculation. It's a political earthquake. Japan has long stood as one of America's most trusted allies in Asia, the cornerstone of Washington's Pacific strategy for decades. And now, a potential pivot toward BRICS, a bloc Washington has openly labeled a threat to the global order. This is not mere diplomatic maneuvering. It could mark a point of no return. The reasons for this dramatic shift have come into sharp focus in recent months, beginning with the trade war reignited by Donald Trump upon his return to the White House. In March, he imposed steep tariffs on Japanese automobiles, the pride of Japan's economy. Industry giants like Honda, Toyota, and Nissan were all targeted. With nearly a third of Japan's auto exports bound for the U.S., the new tariffs effectively slammed the door on a vital market. The assault didn't stop there. Next came duties on Japanese electronics and high-tech components, followed by quotas on agricultural exports, including fish and seafood. America must come first, Trump declared on Truth Social, adding pointedly that even allies cannot take advantage of American generosity. In Tokyo, the message was received as a betrayal. According to Kyodo News, lawmakers from the ruling Liberal Democratic Party were heard whispering in the corridors of Parliament, "If even Japan is no longer an ally, what does that make us?" Amid this crisis, China and Russia moved with quiet precision. Delegations from Beijing began visiting Tokyo more frequently, proposing new avenues of cooperation. According to Bloomberg, a secret meeting took place in Shanghai in April, where discussions reportedly included linking Japan to BRICS trade systems, settling transactions in yuan and rubles, forming joint tech clusters, initiating energy projects, and even integrating Japanese banks into BRICS alternative payment networks. At first, the talks focused on observer status. But now, sources quoted by Nikkei say full membership is under serious consideration. If confirmed, this would be a geopolitical bombshell, a G7 country, and America's closest ally in Asia, shifting toward the global south. Trade between Japan and BRICS nations is already accelerating at record speed. Data from Japan's Ministry of Economy show that, over the past 6 months, exports to China rose 14%, to India 21%, and to Brazil 18%. Japanese companies are exploring joint ventures with South Africa in platinum and lithium mining. And despite sanctions, Russia continues to supply energy to Japan via intermediaries. Much of this trade is occurring outside the U.S. dollar system. Reuters reports that some contracts have already transitioned to yuan and Indian rupees. Washington sees this trend as a warning sign. "We are concerned that some allies may be entertaining anti-American platforms," said the White House press secretary. Trump, more direct, warned on social media, "If Japan joins BRICS, its economy will collapse. We will make their exports worthless." Yet the reality on the ground tells a different story. Japanese corporations are already pivoting to new markets. Mitsubishi recently signed a cooperation memorandum with India's Tata Group. Sony is exploring joint ventures with Chinese firms. Panasonic has announced it will, for the first time, settle transactions with Brazilian reals, completely bypassing the dollar. According to the Wall Street Journal, Japan's elite is now divided. Some, particularly within the military, fear undermining the U.S.-Japan security alliance. But many in the business community, and even within the ruling political class, believe the time has come for Japan to chart an independent path. "We have lived under Washington's shadow for too long," one senior official reportedly said in a closed-door meeting. For the first time in decades, Japan is openly exploring platforms that challenge U.S. dollar dominance. Interest in the digital yuan, participation in talks surrounding the BRICS Development Bank, and expanding direct trade with India and Brazil These are not just diplomatic experiments. They signal a deeper shift. Should Japan take the final step, it would not only mark a decisive break with the United States, but send a shockwave to the global order. The G7 would no longer hold a monopoly on global economic direction. As economists has noted, Japan joining BRICS could represent the most serious blow to Western unity since World War II. For the U.S., it would be a catastrophe. The loss of its main Asian ally would mean giving up control over vital sea lanes and trade routes. For China, it would mark its greatest diplomatic victory. What worries Washington most, however, is how the process is reshaping Japanese society itself. According to a recent Asahi Shimbun poll, for the first time in 30 years, public trust in the U.S. has fallen below 50%. At the same time, 62% of respondents said Japan should expand cooperation with Asian countries, including China and India. This is a signal that cannot be ignored. Japanese society, long oriented toward the West, is now leaning openly toward the East. Moreover, Japan's younger generation, which views China and India as hubs of technological progress, increasingly sees the nation's future tied to Asia rather than Washington. Universities are debating joint educational programs with Chinese and Indian institutions, while business schools are already offering courses on the prospect of working within BRICS. Respected media outlets confirm the shift. In its July issue, the Financial Times wrote that if Japan chooses BRICS, it will mark the end of the Pax Americana era in Asia. Nikkei reports that Japanese corporations can no longer rely on the stability of the American market and must build long-term strategies based on ties with China and India. And Bloomberg, citing sources in Japan's Ministry of Finance, revealed that the first package of agreements for trial settlements in yuan and rupees between Japanese and Asian banks may soon be signed. The reaction of U.S. allies reflects rising concern. In Seoul, officials admitted they cannot imagine a regional security system without Japan inside the American alliance. In Australia, the Sydney Morning Herald called Japan's possible entry into BRICS a geopolitical earthquake. Even in Europe, where confidence in G7 unity has so far prevailed, analysts are beginning to ask, if Japan steps out of America's shadow, can the West preserve its economic power within Japan itself? Cautious voices of opposition to this path are also emerging. Some military circles fear that drifting toward BRICS would weaken U.S. security guarantees. But insiders in Tokyo emphasize a decisive factor is economics. As long as U.S. tariffs remain in place, Japanese corporations will continue to pivot toward Asia, and no military agreements will stop it. The central irony is that it is Trump's policy itself that is driving Japan into BRICS arms. The harder Washington pushes, the faster the process unfolds. And on this point, many experts agree. If the White House does not revise its strategy in the coming months, by autumn, we may witness not just a symbolic gesture, but a true sensation: Japan's official declaration of readiness to join BRICS. At that moment, the map of the world will be irreversibly redrawn. If this comes to pass, the balance of power in global politics will shift irreversibly. For the United States, it would mean not only the loss of a strategic partner, but also a warning to other allies. Loyalty to Washington no longer guarantees security and prosperity.